Hello, hello, hello. Now, welcome to Space Summary. We're going to be covering topics ranging from the dates of November 30th of 2024 to January 3rd of 2025. So this is going to be a month-long session of content, and here we go. So first up, we have Jared Isaac, been selected as the new NASA head. And if you recall, he is the Shift4 Payment CEO. So that's a payment processing company. And he recently was on the Polaris Dawn SpaceX mission that took him on the first commercial slash private citizen spacewalk to ever occur. And that was hosted by, of course, SpaceX and their Dragon capsule. Next, we have the Space Launch System is delayed again. So the Artemis 2, the crewed lunar flyby, has been delayed from September 2025 to April of 2026. As well, the Artemis 3, which is intended to see the first woman astronaut, as well as the first person of color, set to make their footprints on the moon's ice-rich South Pole, is now slated for the mid 2027. Next, the Space Launch System cancellation is looking more and more real. Eric Berger is the Sci Guy Space on Twitter, and he reports that the approximate chances are now 75% for cancellation and 25 against the cancellation. We'll see what happens when Trump takes office and Elon and Vivek are in charge of the Doge committee. Next, we have Vega C. It returns to flight. If you recall, the VV22, which was launched on December 21st of 2022, it experienced a failure due to loss of pressure in its second stage, the rocket motor. And now, almost 2 years later, on December 5th of 2024, Vega C again launches and was successful in putting the third Sentinel-1 satellite into space. And this is just about a 2 year delay between launches. Next, we have Iran. They make the news with their launch of their largest military payload ever into orbit. So on December 6th, the Iranian state media reported that the nation's two-stage rocket launched on December 6th. So that same day, with payloads weighing a combined total of about 300 kilograms or 660 pounds. These payloads, of course, included a space tug system known as Saman 1 that can boost satellites into higher orbits, as well as a CubeSat and some undisclosed research payloads, according to sources. Then we have the James Webb Telescope. It confirms that the universe is expanding faster than expected. So data shows the universe is expanding 8% faster than expected. And it confirmed this expansion based on really looking at the results of its findings and comparing it to theoretical models that predict the current speed. This phenomenon of the expansion of the universe is known as Hubble tension, and our understanding right now of dark energy and dark matter, which are key components in the cosmic elements out there, may be incomplete. So Webb's precise measurements ruled out instrument error and reinforcing the need to revise the cosmological models that we understand today to explain this unexpected rate of expansion. Next, we have the Chinese national. They were arrested after flying a drone over a U.S. airbase, and they were flying it around the Delta rocket, as far as I understand. Hence why we have this image here. Next, we have a Japanese company, Astroscale, the ADRAS-J mission, approached an upper rocket stage on December 11, coming close to it, about 15 meters away from the space debris. Now, this mission, it stands for actually Active Debris Removal by Astroscale, hence ADRAS, ADRAS. And the company plans to have a follow-up mission called ADRAS J2 with a plan to deorbit their first space debris in just before the year 2029. Other missions previously launched by this company include the In Situ Debris Environmental Analysis, OSG-1, which is designed to measure sub-millimeter sized debris in low Earth orbit. However, that mission actually failed to reach orbit due to human error in programming of the Soyuz rocket intended to put it up into orbital insertion. So it ended up burning up in the atmosphere, and that was on November 28th of 2017. Other I guess missions within this Japanese Astroscale's portfolio is the end of life services by Astroscale. They also call it ELISA. So this is included as a in this sort of package. They include a servicer and a client module, where the servicer module repeatedly docked and released the client, and it really demonstrated the ability to find and dock with debris in space. This dock and release test was completed on August 25 of 2021. Next, we have NASA. They released their future Mars plan for the year of 2024 to 2044. Essentially, they plan to utilize commercial and international partners to get as many missions that are under $300 million in terms of budget to Mars as soon as possible, and they intend to launch at every opportunity possible. So they essentially want to lay the groundwork for human landings in the near future on Mars. And this is really a race against time to really get the first human landings there, to conduct life-finding science. And yeah. Also, something to add, NASA directly stated that they would like to have astronauts on the Martian surface by the 2030s. Next, Jared Isaacman. So again, the CEO of Shift4 Payments, who's going to be the head of NASA. He really indicates that military will eventually put troops into space. He's basically saying that as we advance to the point where we have significant human presence in space, it's inevitable that there will also be soldiers tagging along to protect the other humans in space. Next, we have NASA. They pinpointed why the Ingenuity Mars helicopter crashed. So it crashed on January 18 of 2024, and that was due to vision navigation system being confused by the featureless and really sandy terrain of Mars. This led to an incorrect velocity estimates and a hard landing for the helicopter, which caused it to pitch and roll. The rapid altitude changes resulted in excessive loads on the rotor blades, causing them to snap off. And despite the crash, communication with the Ingenuity Mars helicopter was reestablished the next day, and it continues to send weather and avionics data to the Perseverance rover, aiding engineers in the development of future aircraft designs. Really cool stuff. FAA, so multiple Flight 7 missions approved. I'll talk a little bit more about Flight 7 also later on. But when this was initially approved, they had the Flight 7 estimated to be launching on January 11. But now it's actually been pushed a little bit earlier. It's now expected to be launching on January 10th. But essentially, the FAA is working to streamline their launch license process. Next, we have a study that was done, and they're questioning whether Earth is overdue for a devastating solar superflare. So, the study was conducted by researchers analyzing data from NASA's Kepler Space Telescope, which observed about just over 56,000 stars similar to our sun between the year of 2009 and 2013. They identified just under 3,000 super flares during that period, and by examining the frequency and energy of these super flares on sun-like stars, the researchers inferred that these events occur roughly once every 100 years for stars similar to our sun. So, uh-oh. If you were to look back in history, the real last super flare, which caused an eruption about 10,000 times more powerful than the 1859 Carrington event. So we're really long overdue. So something like this could devastate satellite communication systems, power grids, infrastructure. It really highlights the need to get urgently prepared for something like this. Now we have something else that occurred on December 16th to the 17th. Chinese astronauts completed the longest ever spacewalk. So their record breaking time of 9 hours and 6 minutes on those days were completed by two astronauts that installed space debris protection devices on the Tiangong space station. And they also inspected and maintained external equipment and facilities with support from, of course, the space station's robotic arm and ground-based scientific personnel guiding and helping them along the way. By comparison, the next closest spacewalk in terms of time was 8 hours and 56 minutes, and that was completed on March 11 of 2001 by NASA Space Shuttle mission STS-102, where they prepared the ISS for installation of new hardware. Of course, on that mission, they also moved and stowed equipment, inspected, and serviced other modules as well. Now, Boeing Starliner, the astronauts are expected to stay on the ISS even longer. So, Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams originally launched on June 5th of 2024 for an 8-day mission. However, due to Boeing's failure with their Starliner project, they had to stay on the ISS. SpaceX was originally expected to rescue the crew in February of this year, 2025, so next month. However, there's now a delay over to March and possibly April due to construction delays of a new Dragon capsule. Now, NASA opted to not utilize an existing Dragon capsule and wished for a new module to instead come up and save this crew and also allow for some transition time for the oncoming crew. Next, we have SpaceX Mission Control. They actually experienced power failure during the Polaris Dawn mission for just over an hour. And that is shocking given that Elon Musk is closely tied to Tesla, which has power walls and able to service as backup sort of generators. I'm sure that something like this is now being looked at very closely. This just came out very recently, and I'm sure they will put some kind of power redundancy into their systems so they do not experience issues like this again. So for a brief period, it might have impacted Jared Isaacson's journey on the Polaris Dawn. Next, we have several satellite mega constellation projects are expected. So China puts into orbit its first Guowang internet satellites on December 16, and this group of satellites is expected to be one of the first of just about 13,000 spacecraft that it plans to put into orbit over the next decade. Europe, of course, is also planning a Starlink competitor with over 290 IRIS-2 satellites by 2030. That said, SpaceX seems to be well ahead of everybody, and just imagine where SpaceX will be in 6 years from now, when Europe is expected to only have 290 Iris 2 satellites up there. And related to that, Starlink revenue is expected to hit $11.8 billion in 2025. So revenue for 2024 was just about $7.7 billion. So they're expecting to go up and up and up. And this growth is attributed to increasing consumer demand for their Starlink product, the ability to get satellite anywhere in the world, as well as substantial U.S. military contracts, including a previously undisclosed $537 million agreement to provide services to the Ukrainian military through the year 2027. The forecast for this was made by Quilenti Space, a market research firm specializing in space satellite communication industry. Cool. Next, we have the second launch failure for Space One. So this is a private Japanese company, and they're Kairos, which stands for Key-Based Advanced and Instant Rocket System. The rocket experienced its second launch failure on December 18 of 2024, so just a couple weeks back, and the vehicle lost altitude control around the time of its first stage separation. The 4 CubeSats and 1 microsatellite on this rocket failed to reach its orbit. And if you were to look back in history, the first launch attempt that they made was back in March 14 of 2024, where the vehicle was destroyed by its flight termination system just 5 seconds into flight due to lower than expected thrust and speed than they originally intended. Next, we have SpaceX reporting failures prompt federal scrutiny. Oh boy. So Elon Musk and SpaceX are facing federal reviews for failing to comply with reporting protocols of foreign meetings, travel itinerary, and drug use. Employees overlooked these lapses to avoid job loss, but issues have been escalated. In November, Cody Miller, a former SpaceX security clearance official, accused the company of selectively following rules, leading to his resignation after HR pressure. He was shaking the boat and got canned. Next, we have Deep Space Station 23. The reflector dish has been installed. So NASA's Deep Space Network, an array of giant radio antennae, really allows the agency missions to track, send commands to, and receive scientific data from spacecraft to the moon and really beyond. So this Space Station 23 is expected to be operational in 2026 and will receive transmissions from missions such as Perseverance on Mars, Psyche, Europa Clipper, Voyager 1, which is still going, and of course a growing fleet of future human and robotic spacecraft in deep space. Parker Solar Probe, it makes its closest approach to the sun and at the same time becomes the fastest man-made object. So the Parker Solar Probe will pass 6.1 million kilometers from the sun, a distance of 6.1 million kilometers from the sun, on December 24th at about 6:53 in the morning Eastern time. And this approach is the closest it's ever done, and it will be traveling at an anticipated speed of 191 kilometers per second. So if you were to convert that into per hours, that'd be 427,254.83 miles per hour, or if you were to do it in kilometers per hour, it'd be 687,600 kilometers per hour. Now, if you were to compare this to a commercial airplane, they typically travel about 480 to 575 miles per hour, or if you were to do it in kilometers per hour, it'd be about 770 to 930 kilometers per hour. So significantly faster. And next, we have very exciting news from Blue Origin. Their New Glenn rocket completes its first static fire test on December 27. They're also to say their drone recovery ship has already left the port for its ocean landing target of the first stage rocket booster. So it intends to catch. And the first launch of New Glenn is expected sometime next week. The date has not been confirmed yet, but it is expected sometime next week, given that the drone recovery ship has left port and that the static fire just happened. Really excited for this. And NATO, they plan to build a satellite network. I guess in competition to Starlink, but really following recent attacks on ground-based communication transmission lines, the NATO's plan to build a satellite communication network has come up. So NATO has launched a $2.5 million project to enhance internet resilience by creating a hybrid network of submarine cables and satellites, and it's led by the HEIST consortium and partially funded by NATO's Science for Peace and Security program. The initiative aims to ensure an uninterrupted data flow during disruptions, and it involves collaboration of global institutions and partners. And the project is expected to complete in July of 2026. Over to OneWeb, who experienced 48-hour outage after failing to account for the leap year. So the leap year software glitch caused a 48-hour service interruption for OneWeb. And they're a satellite network that's rivaling Starlink. The outage affected just over 630 low Earth orbit satellites, temporarily disrupting their global internet infrastructure. And since then, the company has restored their services. And then for the year of 2024, just really highlighting the amount of total rocket launches we had by each individual nation. So the United States is at the top at 169, China at 68, Russia at 17, and then it falls off from there. But if you were to look at how many of those launches are done by SpaceX, so in the year of 2024, there were 134 Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy launches. So if you were to do the math, that's about 79% of all American launches were done by SpaceX, by one company. And if you were to take the sort of the global total, SpaceX essentially did 51% of all launches on Earth. So while they had 134 launches in 2024, Elon Musk tweeted plans to push the amount of launches they have in 2025 to about 160. And that, of course, that figure excludes any SpaceX Starship activity that they're intending to do this year. Next, we have the FBI. They're investigating bomb threats made against SpaceX, Starbase, as well as the Starship program. So the FBI is investigating bomb threats made in their Texas region, Starbase at SpaceX. On Christmas Eve, individuals reportedly discussing plans to blow up a Starship rocket near the facility in Boca Chica Beach. And then another threat was made around December 27 via a non-emergency police department phone line, which included the statement that the bomb was on a rocket and later clarified to be on a spaceship. These threats, of course, coincide with SpaceX preparation for test flight of its second-generation Starship. The FBI, of course, is urging the public to report any suspicious activity. And lastly, SpaceX Flight 7. It's coming up and the major differences have been posted. So there's expected to be a larger propellant tank on the ship. The fins are placed more leeward, and that should improve with the heating around the hinges. There's better antennae, positioning, data backups, energy distribution, flight computer, more cameras, more sensors. There will also be an attempt to deploy mass simulators while still flying suborbital on Flight 7. So that's the first time that the Starship program will attempt to deploy a payload. As you recall, previously on Flight 6, they had a payload of one single banana, but they did not deploy it. It was just inside the spaceship itself. And of course, more tests on thermal protection. There's going to be some removed tiles in some areas, new metallic tile testing, as well as some tiles with active cooling. The booster will also reuse one engine that was previously flown on Flight 5. If you recall, the one that was the flight booster that was caught by the tower, Mechazilla, they so called it, and the tower itself has more redundant sensing equipment installed on it, and that really confirmed what the issue was with the chopstick catch on Flight 6 that did not occur. And of course, SpaceX is gonna include more and more changes on Flight 7. And we look forward to that launch, which is expected on January 10th. Just under a week away now. And that would be all for today. I hope you have a happy new year, and thank you very much for joining us today. Take care. Till next time.